Hey, afternoon.
Good afternoon, Prof. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm doing okay. Let me try to
Uh,
switch on my camera.
okay. Uh, it should allow you, right?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Let me just check the.
The settings. I think my camera is on this side. I don't know from your own end.
Yeah, yeah. No, let me check the settings. I think it should allow you. It should allow you. Let me just check.
Okay. All right. Are you in South Africa, Prof?
Yes, yes. I'm in South Africa.
Ah, okay. That's great.
Yes. I'm in South Africa. Yeah, busy with work.
Yeah. I can see that these days you're a little bit busy.
Yeah, yeah. It's been hectic, but we are pushing. Yeah, no, I think it should allow you now. Can you just try, and then let's see if that works. Yeah, perfect, perfect. But you are muted. um
Yeah, I've unmuted. I think it's. Can you hear me?
yes, yes, clearly.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, clearly. I'm
Um,
starting the seminar in a car, but I'm going to end up in the office very soon.
Now, how far are you from the office?
I'm not very far, just the school run, but I'm not very far.
Ah, no, that's okay. I think by the time that we will be presenting, I think you will have the opportunity
Yeah,
to move to the office. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Otherwise, how is everything? Good afternoon, Theo, Faith. Thank you very much for joining us. We will definitely be starting at 2 exactly, and I'm sure we should have more people joining us as well.
Yeah, I think we have tried to send to a lot of colleagues.
Okay,
I'm hoping that some of my colleagues will join it too.
join in as well. Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, I'm sure we will have some more people joining us. Otherwise, I think it's working very well. Do you have a PowerPoint? Maybe if you have a PowerPoint, maybe you might want to share and check if it's
Uh, I, 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 I think we didn't prepare PowerPoint.
okay.
The
Yeah, no,
reason
that's fine.
is the reason is this paper is more of experience. So I wanted it to be
Yeah,
to be so organic and to connect closely and intimately with everybody who would be present today.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I
Mhm.
think it's going to help a lot, especially our postgraduate students who are also busy doing field work.
Yeah,
So I think the insights and experiences are definitely going to be very helpful for many of them.
yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah,
I'm hoping that
yeah.
I'm hoping
So
that
is um is Gerald going to join as well?
Gerald is not available. Gerald is in Zimbabwe. He was
Okay.
he was in New Zealand and he came back recently and went to Zim.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think because of net, probably he will join, but because of
Okay.
network, I don't know. But Pax definitely is around. Is the
Oh,
one I'm
Pax is
going to
joining.
present here. Then
Okay.
Tendai was also, he's trying to he's on the finishing line with his PhD.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he's
Okay.
he's having some touch-ups on his dissertation. So, but I
Okay.
think it's mainly going to be myself and Pax.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So I think we still have about 4 minutes before we get started, and I'm sure more people are going to be joining us as we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right, all right, all right. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us. We should be starting. We should be starting at 2 exactly. So just hang in there. Um, We have about 3 minutes to go. So I think maybe what I'll do in these 3 minutes is to introduce our speaker, and then maybe around 2 exactly we then get started. And like I said, Tamuka, apologies for starting this seminar in a car. I'm definitely going to end up in the office in a few minutes. I'm just finishing the school run. But let me quickly introduce our speakers today. I think, as you can see, maybe for those that might have looked into the paper, this is a paper that was written by a number of colleagues who are sharing their experiences with regards to qualitative research. So we only have 2 people that are going to be co-presenting today on this particular paper. That is Phakamani Mazo and Tamuka Chekero. So let me quickly introduce our speakers today. So Phakamani Mazo is a public health researcher and educator with expertise in social and behavioral sciences. His work focuses on health promotion and the reduction of non-communicable diseases, especially risks in sub-Saharan Africa, with particular interest in policy-driven and behavior change interventions. He's a mixed method researcher and is committed to advancing research, especially in health services and resource-limited settings, by harnessing and optimizing existing resources to improve both access and the quality of healthcare. And then Tamuka Chekero, Dr. Chekero, from the University of Cape Town as well, is an anthropologist whose scholarship is situated at the intersections of mobility, migration, and sociality in Southern Africa. He has held research positions, including a postdoctoral fellowship at the Center for the Advancement of Scholarship at the University of Pretoria, and was selected as a World Bank Africa Fellow in 2020 within the Social Development Global Practice. He's a 3-time awardee of the Next Generation Social Science in Africa Research Grant and a recipient of the Arua Research Fellowship for 3 consecutive years. Dr. Chekero is an academic trajectory that reflects a sustained recognition of his intellectual contributions. His ethnographic research engages critically with African epistemologies, particularly issues of conviviality, ushamwari, kuhanyanisa as well, to illuminate how migrants negotiate exclusionary structures and precarious conditions while simultaneously cultivating networks of resilience, mutual care, and belonging. So without further ado, let me allow our presenters to get us started right on time. Thank you very much, and it's over to you, Tamuka.
Thank you very much, Prof. I hope everybody can hear me clearly, and I'm hoping that I'm audible enough.
Yes, yes.
Oh, I think Pax was saying that he was waiting to be let in, so I can see that he's now in. So I think before I begin our presentation, I would like to acknowledge that this paper, I think I wrote it with my colleagues. I co-authored with my colleagues. So we all of us, I think Gerald, Pax, Tendai, and myself were at the University of Cape Town at some point until we started taking different paths. I think Tendai is still at the University of Cape Town finishing his PhD. Pax and myself were here in Pretoria, and I think Gerald has been in and out of New Zealand, Australia. But today, I think the people who are going to present it's Pax and myself, and I think the other colleagues have got other commitments. So I think it's very important for me to give a brief background of where the idea of this paper came from. So I think as we were doing our different researches across the years, I think we found that, you know, as researchers, we face a lot of hurdles and obstacles in the fieldwork, and much of these obstacles are not, you know, documented. And when the researchers, or, you know, polished academic researchers and renowned researchers, or renowned researchers, whenever they write about doing research in the fieldwork, they don't talk about all those, you know, challenges and difficulties they face in the field. They often talk about the positive side, the smooth side of research. So what we thought was, why can't we talk about this, all these challenges and all these obstacles and hurdles, for us to equip and prepare early career researchers and upcoming researchers, so that they understand. So in this paper, what we are focusing on, the complexities and the unpredictability of qualitative research. And we use reflective narratives. So each and every one of us, the four of us, we used a narrative of our own different research. For myself, I used a narrative of my PhD fieldwork experience. You know, we were trying to highlight how often the fieldwork diverges from the orderly linear processes that is described in the research literature. So in the books, you know, when you read books about doing research, it's often, you know, a linear pattern, you know, in which it's very smooth. You're told that, you know, you are going to do your focus group discussions, but they never tell you that when you go to migrants, you can't put migrants together in South Africa, or else Dudula is going to come. So those are some of the things that they never prepare us. They in the articles as well, written articles about doing research. Of course, except for a few articles that also talk about the issue of gatekeeping. I think Professor Gukurume is one of the people who wrote about gatekeeping, and also Professor Maunganidze is one who wrote also about gatekeeping. But much of the literature we read does not, you know, include issues that had to do with the unpredictability of the field. Of course, you sit down at the university, the ethics committee, you present your proposal. The proposal is okay, but the unpredictability of the research, you are never told about that. These are the things that they never tell you at the university. And so, you know, what happens is fieldwork itself is very messy. It unfolds in a messy, uncertain, and nonlinear ways that demand adaptability and reflexivity. So we thought that, you know, we could talk about these issues. So we draw on our experiences in sociology of health, and also anthropology and psychology and public health to illustrate. So these are the disciplines that we come from. And we try by all means to discuss the challenges such as participant recruitment, building trust, ethical dilemmas, navigating the unpredictable fieldwork dynamics. So these reflections, they reveal that the research, you know, encounters often, you know, deviate from the established models that require on the ground improvisation. So in this paper, we also introduce, we borrow and introduce a concept from Professor Francis Nyamjo. I think particularly the 2013 concept he introduced in 2013, which is called nimble-footedness, which is a valuable framework for addressing these complexities. So what do we mean by nimble-footedness? So in its simplest form, being nimble-footed, it means that you are very flexible in nature, you are very elastic. So nimble-footedness taken in this study, I think we try by almost to emphasize flexibility, resilience, and cultural sensitivity in negotiating and navigating, you know, the uncertain terrain of qualitative inquiry. So rather than viewing unpredictability as a hindrance, we argue that we need to embrace it so that it enriches the process by revealing the nuances and the intricacies of lived experiences. So what do we call on in this paper? This paper calls for a more transparent portrayal of qualitative research, one that embraces the inherent messiness rather than concealing it. We understand that each and every person, when they go into the field, they have got a different, you know, experience. my experience is different to Parks' experience. It was different to Tendai's experience, but the common denominator is nimble-footedness, where you are very flexible. So if you go into the field, then you are denied access. Do you have to go back home and sit and cry, that I haven't gotten access into the field? No, you don't have to go back. You need to be nimble-footed. You need to be flexible enough, to negotiate the uncertain terrain. You need to be flexible enough to negotiate all the obstacles and the hurdles. So the messiness of the fieldwork should not be understood as a limitation in this situation or a deficiency. Rather, it constitutes a critical resource for inquiry, embracing the unpredictability, the ambiguity, and also the untidy realities of ethnographic engagement, allows early career researchers and graduate, students to attune themselves to the often unspoken dimensions of social life. So much of what we say in this paper, these are often unspoken, things that are glossed over when people are writing, when people are presenting, even when they go to seminars, when they present, they gloss over these issues. They present their fieldwork as if it was something that was smooth. But by not telling those things and by concealing those things, I think we are doing a disservice to upcoming researchers, to early career researchers. They need to know that it's not all rose. It's not a smooth, linear pattern when you're doing research. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. And when things go wrong, you don't have to abandon research. But what you need to do is you need to be nimble-footed. You need to think on your feet and negotiate all the obstacles, negotiate all the uncertainty and the messiness within the fieldwork. So by navigating these complexities, I think early career researchers, they can develop reflective skills, adaptability, and sensitivity that is very essential for conducting meaningful and ethically grounded field research. Excuse me. So such openness can better prepare graduate students and novice researchers for the uncertainties of fieldwork while fostering their resilience, their adaptability, and also methodological creativity. Because if you are denied access at one point, you have to think again another way of trying to access the field. So that obstacle is not a deficiency, it's not a limitation, but it is giving you a chance to be more creative. So you are expanding your methodological rigor and your methodological horizon. So by valuing the challenges and these complexities of qualitative inquiry, researchers can more effectively capture the richness of human experiences in diverse contexts and sensitive context. So with that in mind, I think I would like to begin by giving my experience when I was doing my PhD. It was in 2019 when I started my fieldwork in Cape Town. So for those who know Cape Town, I think there's a very popular a street called the Long Street in Cape Town in the business central business district. This is where I started my fieldwork. My fieldwork was about migrants, their mobility and sociality in Cape Town. I was trying to understand how the everyday mobility of migrants. So I still remember my first fieldwork encounter as if it happened yesterday. I had set out to engage with French-speaking migrants who worked as nightclub bouncers on the Long Street in the CBD. So my goal was very simple. I just thought maybe, I just want to understand their lives and their interactions with customers, friends, family, colleagues. But from the very beginning, I hit a brick wall. When I approached these four bouncers, I quickly realized that, English wasn't going to get me very far. They were very adamant that if I wanted them to cooperate, I had to speak French. Yet I didn't even know any single word of French. So, they could not even manage to speak, they could only manage to speak basic English. And they refused to use it, for that kind of conversation. And I hope to have. I just thought probably because we are all migrants, it was going to be easy. You're a migrant, I'm a migrant, we are foreigners in South Africa. So why can't we help each other? I was glossing over the issue of linguistical barriers that I could have, taken cognizant before going into the field. I was not told about all these things when I presented my proposal. The ethics committee of the UCT, the high degrees, board, they said the proposal was okay. But they never prepared me to this issue of linguistical and cultural differences and barriers. After long moments of awkward back and forth, they finally agreed to speak with one of my research assistants, Elvis, who comes also from West Africa, who was very fluent in French. Suddenly, I found myself being demoted from the lead investigator to just a bystander who was watching Elvis take over the interviews. So Elvis was interviewing them and translating at the same time. So at the same time, I sat silently, relying on the facial expressions, the tone, and the body language to make sure that I make sense of what was happening. Although frustrating, this moment also forced me into the role of an observer. With their permission, I began focusing on intently on their gestures, the rise and the fall of their voices, the emotions that flickered across their faces. So later, when the interviews were translated, I compared these observations that I made and also the translations that Elvis gave me to Marcel Mauss's idea about the techniques of the body, or, the ways culture shapes even the most ordinary movements. So it dawned on me that even though I could not participate fully in the conversations, I was still able to gather valuable data. So this was a humbling experience and a humbling lesson in the importance of nimble-footedness. So the language barrier had limited my ability to probe deeply, but it also protected me from imposing my own assumptions or biases too quickly. It reminded me of the ethical weight of research, the need to respect privacy, to gain genuine consent, and to accept the limits of what one can access in another's culture. I think it helped me to embrace my own incompleteness. I had to embrace my incompleteness and not used it as a limitation, but used it to be creative enough. So this first encounter in the long street, I think, it taught me more than I had anticipated. It showed me that fieldwork is never neat or straightforward. It is full of obstacles, negotiations, renegotiations, and unexpected twists and turns. I realized that sometimes I would need to step back and let others like Elvis take the lead. It also made me rethink, excuse me, my approach in questioning and also to understanding cross-cultural communication. So more importantly, it reminded me that research is as much about humility as it is about discovery. So over time, what I learned is that, I had to carry this lesson with me wherever I was going. I had a friend also who was also coming from DRC, who was doing his PhD. He discovered that he's discovered his own struggles with French-speaking Congolese. He was also a French, but he wanted to speak to his Congolese counterparts using English, and they denied him access until he had also to speak French or Lingala. That's when they accepted him. So for me, that first encounter, similar to others in the long street, marked the beginning of a deeper understanding of what is truly or what it truly means to navigate the borders and boundaries of qualitative research, of navigating and negotiating and renegotiating the fieldwork. So when I reflect on all this, on my first encounter with the French-speaking nightclub bouncers on the long street, I see it not just as a frustrating episode, but it's more than a frustrating episode. It was a lived example of the very issues that we raise in this paper. Just as we described in this paper, my experience revealed how qualitative research rarely follows a neat linear path that is laid out in the textbooks or by supervisors. I'm not blaming supervisors for this because we all have different, experiences. And also supervisors are humans. They cannot cater for each and every one of us. But sometimes I'm just saying that we need to be prepared, that, in as much as supervisors cannot give us all what we need, but at the end of the day, we just need to embrace such incompleteness, such uncertainty, such messiness to our advantage to be more creative with it. So the unpredictability and the challenges, they demand flexibility, reflexivity, and humility. I think what I was just trying to do here was to introduce the background of the paper and also the foundation on which the paper is resting. I think at this point I would like to hand over to my colleague Pax, who is going to dive deep into the discussion and also the findings of the paper. Over to you, Pax.
Thank you so much, Chamuka. So I just want to add on, like, it is very one interesting point that you gave was, what do you do if you get into the field and you find that the field is not as is not as good as expected? Are you going to abandon your research and say, oh, I didn't, what I found is not what I expected? You don't abandon your study. You try to be flexible. I would also like to add that neither do you force your methods or strategies onto the research field or onto the participants. For example, in one of my study, in my study, I encountered a situation where I had to, because I had to, my initial plan was to conduct in-depth interviews with the individual participants. But I encountered one situation where two participants were friends, and they were both eligible to participate, and they wanted to participate as a pair. So I had to adapt and conduct a paired interview instead. So oftentimes on paper, we often hear or say that no, for the sake of privacy and confidentiality, individual interviews are the best. But in this regard, participants felt more safe to discuss with me in pair rather than as individuals. So sometimes what we anticipate when we are writing our proposals is not always what we are going to find in the field, because qualitative research is not as linear and straightforward process. It is an iterative process that involves navigating different forms of complexities and uncertainties. So what appears to be a straightforward process on paper can trigger discomfort and hesitation that sometimes drive participants away. And I would like to give an example of my particular research. I was focusing on exploring the perspectives of young closer men on medical male circumcision. So I was very aware of the fact that closer people practice traditional male circumcision as a rite of passage or as part of their initiation process. So traditional male circumcision is part of the closer people's cultural practices. But I was not, and I knew that for me to talk to them about traditional male circumcision, it was going to be challenging because they are not allowed to openly discuss such issues with outsiders. So me as an outsider, I knew of that challenge. But I decided that no, I'm simply going to focus on their perspectives on medical male circumcision, not traditional circumcision. I was like, no, I'm not going to focus on traditional circumcision because it is going to give me these challenges. So I simply want to know their views on medical male circumcision. I want to know their attitudes. I want to explore their attitudes towards medical male circumcision. I don't want anything to do with the traditional circumcision. But so my reasoning was based on the fact that there were no limitations in terms of them discussing medical male circumcision. The limitation was only on traditional circumcision. But I soon realized that I was mistaken, because for many of them, talking about medical male circumcision inevitably required them placing it within the broader cultural context of traditional circumcision, making comparisons between the two. So as soon as I talk about, I asked about the circumcision, even if I say medical male circumcision, even if I clarify from the beginning that I'm more interested in your views about medical male circumcision, not traditional circumcision. The moment I say circumcision, they would like to share their views on medical male circumcision within the broader context of traditional male circumcision. So then this overlap now introduced challenges of sensitivity, secrecy, and cultural boundaries that are often associated with traditional male circumcision. And I had not fully anticipated this at the proposal stage. So this is a new challenge that I faced once I got into the field. But when I was still writing my proposal, defending my proposal in the department at ethics committee, I would simply say, since my research is focusing on medical male circumcision, it's not going to. I'm not going to. I anticipated that I was not going to face any challenges related to the secrecy and cultural boundaries associated with the traditional male circumcision. So now, because of this issue now, because they were not allowed to discuss openly about the issue with outsiders, I had to use gatekeepers. And one of the gatekeepers that I used was he was my uncle's colleague. He worked together with my uncle, and I told him about the study, and that man happened to be a traditional healer also, who actually performed these circumcision practices and stuff. He circumcised some of those boys when they are doing initiation, being initiated into manhood. So he's the one that I then approached. He spoke to me about the process. He spoke to me about the complexities of me discussing because it was not possible for them to simply discuss medical male circumcision without giving me their experiences with traditional male circumcision, because whatever factors that influenced their traditional male circumcision was one of the key factors that influenced their perspectives on medical male circumcision. So the two were intertwined, and there was no way that I could separate one from another. So I simply had to use the gatekeepers, and from that gatekeeper is the one who then helped me to recruit more participants, talking to them, because for me it was a non-starter. Going to them, talking to them directly and asking them to share their views on medical male circumcision. As soon as they realize that this is a foreigner, this is not a proselyte, because they are not allowed to share their experiences with not only outsiders, but they are also not allowed to share these experiences with boys who have not yet gone to the mountains, because they say what happens in the mountain stays in the mountain. So they are not allowed to share the experiences with the boys who have not yet undergone initiation. They are also not allowed to share these experiences with women. So for me, going there as an outsider, it was a non-starter. So I had to use one of my uncle's friend or my uncle's colleague, who happened to be a traditional healer also, who performed these circumcision procedures. And he's the one who helped me to recruit participants. So this highlights the importance of using gatekeepers whenever you have encountered the unexpected. Because oftentimes we say in qualitative research, the biggest challenge, I'm sure we documented a number of different challenges that we faced. But one thing that binds all these challenges together is the unexpected development. So be it in ethics, be it in navigating the cultural barriers, be it in navigating the language barriers, what we all had in common is the existence of these unexpected developments. And it is a harsh reality that as a researcher, you find you often have to adapt and change the very methods and strategies you spend months carefully developing and justifying to the relevant departments and ethics boards. Something that took extensive planning and negotiation to gain approval may need to be altered within minutes or hours of entering the research field. But this is not a sign of a poor preparation, but rather a reflection of the dynamic and unpredictable nature of qualitative research. So now when you enter, the field work itself often demands the responsiveness and flexibility. So here, this is when we say the concept of, when we are talking about the concept of nimble-footedness, it emphasizes the need for researchers to be flexible and ready to respond to the unexpected developments in the field. So when you are writing your proposals, it's you rarely think that you are going to alter, much of the methods and strategies that you are proposing. They sound really perfect, and they go through rigorous processing and analysis by your supervisors, by the ethics boards, by your departments, and you receive a lot of constructive criticism. You try to perfect your proposal, but as soon as you enter the field, you must be prepared to adapt, or you must be prepared to change completely the methods and strategies that you were intending on using before you enter the field. So I think this is the most important part of dealing with the unexpected developments in qualitative research. And these unexpected developments, they happen at different levels. So we talk about the iterative nature of qualitative research. Sometimes in textbooks or sometimes in school, we talk about qualitative research being iterative, and oftentimes we mean where people go back and forth is data collection and analysis. Like you go into the field, you conduct 2-3 interviews, you analyze them, you try to make sense of the data, you go back into the field, maybe you are trying to reach data saturation. But the concept of nimble-footedness doesn't, it doesn't end it doesn't end at the analysis and data collection stage, because you have to go back to your proposal stage again. Because some of those methods, you would have found that some of the methods that you had proposed, and even if they were approved, they were not compatible with the research field. So you still have to go back to the proposal stage and try to change some of the strategies that you had already proposed. And when we are talking about being ready to respond to the unexpected developments, or being ready to adapt and change some of the methods, we are not simply saying, if as soon as you get your proposal approved, be ready to just abandon all your methods and do whatever you want to do, to collect data. That's not what we are saying, because this process, you still have to document it properly. We are not saying it's okay for you to just abandon your whatever methods that you have proposed. No, you still have a well-structured proposal with the methods and strategies that you have proposed. So when you change those, when you face challenges, or when you face unexpected developments in the field, you often adapt and do what is compatible with the field itself, You do what is compatible with the practical realities in the field. So when you adapt those methods, you still have to document properly. You still have to explain why you had to change and why you had to. So that forms part of the reflexive process, where you reflect on the process of data collection, like what went wrong, what changed, what was the difference between, what changed your mind. If you said you were going to conduct in-depth interviews, why did you then conduct paid interviews? Or why did you have to use direct observation instead? So you still have to be able to explain it in depth, and also to justify your decisions. So the concept of nimble-footedness is not just about abandoning what you have been proposing, or abandoning what you proposed in your research proposal, and focusing on what is convenient to you. Yes, there is an element of convenient because of the challenges that you are going to encounter in the research field, but you still have it has to be, whatever decisions that you are going to make, they have to follow a specific logical reasoning. Like you had to like in Tamuka's case, he had to use someone who he had to use, I would say, like a field worker other than himself. He had to use someone who would collect data for him, so who would conduct interviews for him, because of the language barrier. But it's not something that he had planned for before. So and after doing that, he still had to go back to his proposal or to his work, and explain exactly what was the reasoning behind recruiting another person who would then conduct interviews for him. So yeah, I think for now we can leave we can give the floor to the audience if you have any questions or anything, anything that you need clarity on. You are free to then ask questions.
So before questions, Max, let me try to just give this summary that I prepared, just like bullet points, to try to summarize some of the challenges that we faced. So I think one thing that Pax was saying was issue of gatekeeping and access control. So you find that when you go in the field, there are gatekeepers, right? Like local leaders, community elders, institutional figures who often control access to participants. So you need to gain their approval first before you even start your research. Number two, the researcher's positionality and power dynamics. So factors such as race, class, gender, and in my case, when I studied the issue of nationality, even age may affect, how participants perceive the researcher and what they are willing to share. You need to be very careful when navigating those. The third thing that we found was the issue of emotional or psychological strain. Fieldwork itself, in sensitive context, can be emotionally draining for researchers, leading to compassionate fatigue or ethical dilemmas about involvement versus, detachment. The fourth problem I think that we found was the issue of safety and security risks. A researcher may face, physical dangers in unstable environments, crime, political unrest, health risks, and also there's need for strategies for personal safety. Number five, logistical and resource challenge. Sometimes issues of unreliable transport, limited internet, financial constraints, and even bureaucratic hurdles, such as, when you are doing research in South Africa, you need to give a visa or a permit. This can disrupt the research timelines and require coordinations in planning. And then I think the sixth thing that we noted also in this paper was the issue of cultural and linguistic barriers. You will find that, like in Park's situation, the issue of circumcision, you can't just go and talk to people about it, so it's a barrier, it's a cultural barrier on its own. And also in my situation, the issue of language, became a barrier. But in all these, the most important thing is how flexible you are to navigate all these challenges, hence incompleteness. So with that, I think we give back to Professor Gukurume, who is the chair. Prof, are you available?
Sorry. Yeah, no, I thought I was unmuted. So yeah, thank you very much, Tamuka and Pax for this interesting presentation and quite reflexive. I think it's something that is extremely important to understand the politics of doing qualitative research and more particularly the messiness that comes with doing research, be it qualitative research or quantitative research. And I think acknowledging that the playing field in qualitative research is not as level as maybe sometimes what we intend when we are producing and writing our proposals. And I particularly like the idea that a research is an iterative process that allows adaptability, and this is the way in which you are able to collect data, because sometimes you face quite a lot of challenging experiences, which might also, come up with a lot of problems when it comes to the research process. And I like, Tamuka, what you highlighted with regards to this idea of incompleteness, that sometimes we think of ourselves as researchers, that we are complete, we are the knowers, and we are the ones that produce knowledge, we are the experts. But then some humbling experience in the field will tell you that, probably some of the people that we think are just security detail or maybe cleaners, they actually become very important part of the research process, and how research becomes a very co-produced kind of phenomenon. So let me, I think, open up to questions, comments from the floor. Feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions, any comments. I think this is particularly important, especially for also our postgraduate students who are also busy with their fieldwork. So any questions, any comments from the floor? Any comments, any questions for the presenters? Maybe I can start, Tamuka and Pax, as we wait for probably one or two people that might also have questions. I think one of the issue that we always encounter is the issue of ethical dilemmas. That sometimes you have very clearly written ethics, and of course this is something that is very generic. You are going to seek informed consent, you are going to ensure that you don't expose your participants to any form of harm, but the moment you go into the field, then you realize that what you had written vis-a-vis what is on the ground might be extremely difficult in terms of negotiating the ethical challenges that you might be facing. So I just wanted to ask, with regards to your work that you are doing, which is not only sensitive ethically, but also even sensitive in terms of conducting fieldwork with immigrants, with reproductive health, and more specifically, the rituals of coming of age amongst the Xhosa young people. Are there any ethical dilemmas that you encountered that probably challenged you to rethink some of the things that you had highlighted in your ethical discussions? I think maybe we can take one or two more if there are some people that might have questions for the presenters.
Hello, Prof.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. I hear you.
It's Lloyd. It's Lloyd Nodo.
Yes, go ahead, Lloyd.
Okay. I wish to thank you for the presentation. I was driving, then I had to park and follow the presentation, which goes to show the importance of this topic. And obviously, we have connections, and I'm very happy that one of my former students is presenting. That's Tamuka, and from our networks, you know very well.
Yes.
Their presentation resonates very well with my study among the Tugwim Kosi people. It was a very sensitive topic, and I'm glad that what they experienced is in line with what I experienced. You know, it was a very sensitive area, and I had to use, unfortunately, their context is different. I'm a very local person, so I had to use what I call politics of belonging
Sorry.
navigate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead. I was trying to mute someone who was unmuted.
Okay, so their context is different from my context because I was a resident anthropologist. So I had to use, I think it's in line with the issues of reflexivity. I had to use the politics of belonging to get even ethical clearance from, you know, when it's PhD study, you need to get clearance from local authorities up to the national authorities. So the politics of belonging was very critical for me. I had to convince the national authorities that I'm a resident anthropologist and I did not have any other political or initiatives that I needed. So, oh, sorry. There is a local call, unfortunately. Oh, sorry.
You're muted, Prof.
Sorry. Patience. Sorry. Let's allow patience before we give you guys the chance to respond. And I see.
All right. Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Tamuka, and for the good presentation. That's really timely and relevant. So I wanted to maybe ask also from an experience where you structure your study in a way that you want to like speak to the women, and then to get through the women, then you have sort of a key informant who's probably a male. And from my experience was then when I was collecting data from the women, I didn't actually get much. Instead, I got so much from the key informant who was a male, and my studies focused on women. So I really got confused now, because then I kept trying to get more people, but I was still getting this redundant information that I feel was not really useful. So how do you deal with that when you're doing qualitative research? Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, I think maybe we can squeeze in Obakeng and then we'll allow you guys to respond. Obakeng, go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you very much for the presentation. My experience, because on my honors project, I was looking into the experiences or the views of taxi or minibus taxi drivers. And one of the issues that I experienced was the gatekeeping. But it didn't end there. Remember, there's a hierarchy of some sort within taxi associations. So for one to speak to operators and drivers, one had to approach the executive of the association. So, but then even if you get the executive to mediate on your behalf or to convince the participants to be part of the study, the participants still feel that in some instance they feel that there has to be some kind of a big brother role that the executive has to play in terms of responding to the questions and all of that. So that was my experience. I don't know if in your work have you experienced something like that where the gatekeepers held so much power that the participant wanted to have the gatekeepers in the space when the interviews were conducted. And another issue that I just want to find out from you is the issue of languages. You touched on the issue of French being one of the barriers that you had to move or to navigate around. Then what effect does it have on the data quality? Because now you have to translate the responses. To what impact does it have on the data quality, even the validity of the data that you have gotten from the field work? So those are my points. And lastly, on the issue of race, I didn't hear you touch on the issue of race. To what extent does it contribute, especially in South Africa, where a lot of us are doing studies that involves parts of society that it's predominantly white, like farmers. How do we navigate around that, or how do we move around that? How do we find ways to ensure that we get as much as we can from participants, take into consideration the racist undertones that we find in our society? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Obakeng. Thanks for that. Yes, Tamuka and Pax. It's quite a mouthful, but I'm sure you'll be able to chew that.
Okay, Prof. Thank you very much, and thank you very much, everyone, for the questions. I think they are quite straightforward. I think your first question, Prof, and I think the question that was asked by Patience, I think I would like to answer those concurrently. I would like to draw on my experience of researching Zimbabwean migrant women in Guyana. So during my master's research, I was focusing on the experience of Zimbabwean migrant women in accessing health services in Guyana. So one ethical dilemma responding to your question, Prof, was that I'd not been given permission or ethical clearance to interview or speak to healthcare personnel. But when I was doing my research, I was working with the Treatment Action Campaign where I did my internship during my honors. So I went through TAC, right? I was just following them wherever they were going. So at some point we had to go to a certain healthcare facility to have our meeting there. And during that meeting, I think we had conversations that touched on the issues that had to do with my research. So I found that they had quite important and relevant information that I could use in my thesis. but yet I did not have ethical clearance to interview these people. In this situation, I think is one lesson that I learned. I had to call my supervisor. This is the situation. Then the supervisor told me that, you didn't go there. Did you go there to interview them? Then I said, no, I wasn't not going to interview them. What I was just doing was just, trying to observe. And also I was working with TAC. So she said that you got this information, or you got this data serendipitously, so you can still use it. So it was I was caught in between. Should I use this information? All right, is it ethical? But also, if I ignore information which is very relevant to my research, am I doing also justice to research? So in that situation, I had to navigate, and also I had to come clean in my final write-up that, I think it was methodological creativity, where I coined, what I would call, impromptu focus group discussion. I never prepared for this. I never even, envisioned when I was writing my proposal that there's something that is called an impromptu focus group discussion. But I had to come clean and also try to say that I never intended to interview these people. So it's one of those things where you see that, you have got data. This is which is very important and relevant to your research, but you can't ignore at the same time. You don't have ethical clearance. But in this situation, you need clearance when you are intentionally interviewing people. Then I think questions was also asking, I can use the same scenario of interviewing migrant women. That, I could not interview them without, some of them would say, you can't interview us without our husbands or our partners present. So sometimes you have to go through the partner first, and then you go through to the people you wanted to interview. So I just thought, as a Zimbabwean, it might be very easy to connect with Zimbabwean women. But, you would find that, some of them, they're very particular about who can talk to their wives or who doesn't. So you had to go through their partners first. And sometimes those who didn't have partners, sometimes you have to go through, probably church leaders for you to access them. I think at this point, I would like to leave the other question to my colleague, Pax.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute and was having difficulties unmuting. So I would like to touch on the issue of ethics first, the ethical dilemmas. Oftentimes we talk about, those general ethical principles such as, no harm to participants, right to privacy, confidentiality, and in most cases it's all about the participant. But we must be aware that also, the researcher safety is also important. So in my own study, so especially in these studies where you are dealing with you are an outsider, you are dealing with a specific cultural group that sees you as an outsider, that sees you as a threat. Because to them, when we say they are not allowed to share such information with outsiders, it's not just about them not being allowed. There are consequences to it. There are serious consequences to them sharing that information. If it is found out that they were sharing such information with an outsider or with a woman, then it becomes an issue. So I had written my ethics, the steps that I'm going to do to ensure that the participants are safe and stuff, and particularly the issue to do with compensation, like how do you compensate so sometimes it's a very contentious issue, because sometimes paying participants for participating is seen as unethical. How are you going to balance that? So when I went into the field, I collected data, and then with the aim of compensating participants for their time and transport. So when I got there, I interviewed the first two participants. After interviewing them, I'm like, okay, thank you so much for your participation. Here is some money for your transport and for your time. So I'm just thanking them and appreciating that at least they participated, and then after they received the money from me, then they asked me like, so what what payment are we going to get? Like, what kind of payment are you asking about? And it's like, no, so you just compensated for our time and transport. So what about the information that we gave you? So they actually wanted to be compensated for the information that they shared with me also. So now I'm thinking like, yeah, is this ethical or is this not ethical? But is it safe for me to just leave? Is it safe for me to say, no, I don't have money for you? Maybe they can do something, they can harm me. So South Africa is such a dangerous place. So I don't know these people, they can they can try to do something to me, or they can rob me or something. I don't know. So these are the issues that you also have to be aware of when you are getting into the research field. It's not only about the participants' safety, it's also about your own safety. So at the end of the day, I ended up in negotiating with them. We agreed on the price, and then I ended up paying them for participation. So this unexpected 10 raised ethical questions about the appropriateness of financial incentives in qualitative research. But I ultimately decided to accommodate these demands, and this reflects the need to balance the research ethics principles with the realities on the research context. So it's not all about just sticking to say, or if you believe that it will amount to me purchasing data from participants. I don't have to be paying participants for this. If you stick to that, you may end up putting yourself in danger. And also it raises the question of whether is it, because to me these participants also felt like I was exploiting them, because when they are giving you information that they feel they shouldn't be giving you, and then you just say thank you and leave, they feel that they've been exploited. So is it also ethical for me to leave participants feeling that they've been exploited by a researcher? So you have to find balance. There's no straightforward answer that I can say you have to do this, but you simply have to do something that is fair on you, on the participants, and also that is not outrageous when it's put out there to other researchers, and when they see it, they say like, this is extreme. So you have to balance. You have to strike a balance between your safety, your participants' safety, and also making sure that you don't leave your participants feeling exploited. Yeah, I think that's that's my response.
I think there are two more questions that we haven't answered about the issue of language and the issue of race. Can I just quickly respond?
The issue of race. Yeah.
Can I quickly respond to that?
Okay, sure.
Also, I'll start with the issue of language. When I talked about the issue of the French-speaking participants, it was not a one-time event where I'll just go there, interview people today, then I'm done. But my situation was an ethnographic research in which I took probably a year interviewing and interacting with those people. So it was not only about just talking to them, but also observing. Sometimes I'll just go there to observe without talking to them. And by having a prolonged interactions, I think you begin to understand that some of the things that you had, or your first impressions, or your preconceived notions about people would be challenged. So at the end of the day, what you do is you triangulate information. You just don't go there, interview them, then you're done. But you just need to take your time, interview them, observe and understand non-verbal cues, try to understand their culture, then you triangulate. At the end of the day, I think that's when you would understand that the quality of your data and also the validity can improve. Then, Pax, you would want to respond to the issue of race.
Yeah, the issue of race. I think what is important is to be open-minded when you're doing this kind of research, when you're getting into the research field with with the diverse groups of people, be it culturally diverse or racially diverse or in terms of gender. You simply have to be open-minded. You don't have to. You have to do away with your preconceived ideas of what this race is all about, what this group is all about. And once you do that, and you have to position yourself as a learner also. You don't have to go there as a researcher, as an expert. You have to go there as someone who is willing to learn from them. So it really doesn't matter if someone is white or is Indian, as long as you show them that you are coming to them as a learner. You are not coming to them as someone who wants to judge them or who wants to impose something on them. As long as they feel, you have to make them feel empowered to share their ideas or perspectives with you. So if you use that approach, that your participants will feel empowered to share their perspectives with you, then a race or gender or anything is not going to be that much of an issue. But sometimes it takes time also to build that kind of trust. It's not a one day kind of a thing. Sometimes you go there, it's more difficult on a specific day, and you have to go back and you come back tomorrow. It's allowed. It's not. It's you are not forced to collect data on the very first day that you entered the field. Sometimes you go there, you focus on simply building trust and rapport, and maybe you spend a whole week coming back trying to build that trust up to the point where they completely trust you. But also it requires you to use an approach that makes them feel empowered, that makes them feel like they are teaching you something rather than you are learning something from them rather than you imposing something on them. So yeah, I think that's my view on that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pax. Yeah, I think we'll bring Lloyd back in, but before that, I think there are some questions also that are in the chat. I think this one is from Felix. He's saying, thank you for such an interesting and rich discussion. My question is directed to Pakani. I enjoyed listening to how gatekeepers play an important role in hard to in accessing hard to reach population. Could you shed more light on how you avoided possible manipulation or coercion? That is one. Then I think there's another one. Okay, I think we Lloyd is back on. So I think Lloyd, we can allow you to come in. And Obakeng as well. I saw your hand. I don't know if it's a legacy hand or you want to add something. Obakeng, after Lloyd.
Yes, comrade. Just wanted to perhaps try to give context on the issue of race.
Okay.
That South Africa is unfortunately still premised on racial terms. A whole lot of things are just racially informed or shaped. So my research and other comrades' research at MA level, it looks into the experiences of farmers in relation to climate change and many other issues. So my interest is agriculture in South Africa is predominantly white Afrikaner dominated, right? And we know the history of agriculture or boer perceptions, stereotypes, and all of that. So in the context that one is confronted by stereotypes, the researcher is confronted by stereotypes and resistance to fully participate in the study. How do we navigate against the perceptions, against the resistance from a particular sector such as agriculture or farmers, where the research is based on? How do we find ways to get as much as we can from these resistant participants that we have? We can use this particular context in other areas, but in this context, we're looking into agriculture and white farmers who are predominantly find themselves having all the stereotypes against Black people. So me as a Black man coming to a sector that is wholly white, and how do I navigate against all the stereotypes that they have and all the resistance that I will encounter in the process? That was my question. And lastly, the other question was on gatekeeping. You find that the participants, after you find access through gatekeepers, in some instances, they prefer to have gatekeepers or to oversee how they respond, or to be assisted in some instance, thus turning the interview into a case study or a focus group and all of that. So how do we navigate against that when one is faced with a situation where you have gatekeepers that is being required by the participants to be present? How do you also address that? That was my curiosity on that also. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Obakeng. I don't know if Lloyd is still with us, or maybe we can allow Pax and Tamuka to respond. Okay, no, I don't think Lloyd is still with us. Are there any maybe other questions that maybe you want to squeeze in before we allow the presenters to respond? Okay, no, this is a comment from Qualitative. Thank you, colleagues, for this interesting discussion. You have made my life easier as an MSc student. I have a presentation on ethics and politics of research. So thank you very much, Pax and Tamuka. That's a compliment from one of the colleagues who is attending the session, that they've benefited significantly, and it's going to be easier for them to present on the work on ethics and the politics of research. Any more questions? Okay, there's Isaac. I see your question. Thanks for this insightful presentation, Dr. Tamuka. Did you face any religion-based resistance to participate in your research? I think this might also maybe speak to Pax as well. These are traditional religious norms and values. Are there any forms of resistance that you might have faced with regards to the research that you were conducting? That's a question from Isaac. So Pax and Tamuka, maybe you can respond to that. And probably that will be our last round of questions, unless if there are other pressing questions that we can just squeeze in.
Okay, thanks, Prof. I think I would like to start by responding to the question of race. I think it has come up again, and I think we just need to try by all means to dig deeper into it and break it down. So race on its own profoundly shapes research and fieldwork in South Africa, where the historical legacies of apartheid and colonialism continue to structure social relations and access to knowledge in the present day, present day South Africa. I think many scholars, including my PhD supervisor, Francis Nyamji, was writing about decolonizing of knowledge. I think also professors such as Sabelo Ndlovugasheni have been writing about this. So for anthropologists, racial identity is not merely a demographic marker, but a relational category that informs positionality, that also shapes how researchers are perceived, how researchers are trusted and or excluded or included in the field. So as a Black African researcher, you may encounter, assumptions of solidarity from participants, yet, still face suspicion tied to ethnic, national, or class differences. While white researchers may benefit from structural privileges, such as easy access to institutions or resources, yet simultaneously confront barriers of mistrust rooted in the histories of exploitation and extractive, scholarship. So in that in mind, we need to understand that fieldwork it unfolds within a racialized terrain, where power, privilege, and belonging are constantly negotiated. Like what I always try to borrow from my my supervisor, that being and becoming, they are permanent work in progress. So fieldwork on its own also is permanent work in progress. In this sense, race in South Africa is not an external variable to control, but an active dynamic force that mediates encounters, that informs the ethics of engagement and demands a nimble-footed responsiveness to the deeply political textures of everyday life. So race as a form of gatekeeping is particularly visible, when I would like to take Obakeng's situation, that when researching farmers in South Africa, because land, labor, and agriculture remain deeply entangled within the apartheid history of dispossession and racialized privilege. And as you can see, I think the question of land and the question of the white minority, I think raised a lot of chaos and raised a lot of issues with the USA, where everything has happened. And I think those who've been following the issue of President Trump and President Ramaphosa have seen that the issue of land has brought on a lot has opened the floodgates of diversions and contestations. So white commercial farmers often control vast resources and institutional networks, making access dependent on navigating racialized hierarchies of ownership and authority, while Black smallholder farmers may be very careful of researchers due to long histories of exploitation. So a Black African researcher may be welcomed by Black smallholder farmers, but face suspicion and dismissal from white commercial farmers, while white researcher may encounter the reverse. So negotiating these, dynamics calls for building layered relationships, drawing on the trusted local interlocutors, agricultural association, community-based associations to mediate entry while demonstrating cultural sensitivity and respect. So to contextualize this issue, I think you need to have connections, or you need to create rapport, I think, with the people who are working in some of these farms. So I think that's one way of trying to understand, create long-standing relationships with them that can draw you closer to the white farmers. But at the end of the day, there's still gonna be a lot of obstacles and hurdles that you need to negotiate. Hence, you need to adopt nimble-footed tactics, such as shifting between roles of observer, learner, advocate, investing time in slow rapport building and acknowledging the historical wounds that frame research encounters. So in this sense, navigating race as a gatekeeping, process in South Africa, in farm research, you need to understand that research is less about bypassing barriers, but more about working within the racialized terrains, carefully and ethically turning the politics of access into opportunities for reflexive and situated knowledge making. I hope I've answered that, and I would like to jump to the question of religion. Indeed, when I was doing my research, I faced this religion-based resistance where one of my chapters focuses on the issue of religion and conviviality, how churches have become, places and spaces in which conviviality, Ubuntu, and my concept that I like most, Ushamad, which means friendship, emerge. But at the end of the day, these religious spaces, you can only have access to Christian religious spaces. But when I tried to access the Muslim religious spaces, it became very difficult, even though I had to access them through some of my research assistants, such as Elvis, whom I spoke about earlier. You would understand that accessing these would be very difficult. And you won't have those deep conversations, similar to what was happening with Pax, that some of the information that is only that is only allowed to be shared within the inner circle was not shared with me. So at the end of the day, you would understand that even though we are all migrants in South Africa, but you would understand that you become an outsider within a migrant community, which you think that you're an insider. So at the end of the day, I hate to embrace such resistance as one of the things that I had to write about methodologically and theoretically writing, that friendship is not all about connecting with one person that or from one person from the religion that you come from, but it cuts across nationality, it cuts across race, and it's very, very fluid, and it's nimble. So I think I would love to give this to Pax.
Okay, thank you so much. So I heard they were asking about how I avoided possible manipulation or coercion. So I wanted to ask whether if the person is talking about coercion on the part of a participant, on the part of participants, or coercion on part of myself as a researcher. But anyway, since coercion and manipulation can happen both ways, especially when you're dealing with gatekeepers, I'm going to address it in both ways. So coercion on the part of the participants, it's always important to emphasize to the participants that they have a right to withdraw from the study. But why gatekeepers are important, and they are important in giving you access to the participants, you must always ensure that they don't coerce people into joining. Make it clear that participants can refuse privately. So even if you have been referred to the participant by the gatekeeper, and even if the participant has spoken directly with the gatekeeper, you always have to don't use that gatekeeper as consent. Gatekeeper is only there to give you easy access, but when you get to the participant, you still have to ask for their consent. They have to voluntarily give you that consent. They have to volunteer to participate. So if they don't want to participate, they don't want to participate. So it is. So this difference is very important for you to know, that using a gatekeeper doesn't necessarily mean that the participant wants to participate. The gatekeeper is important in giving you easy access so that you can access the participants. But after accessing those participants, they can still refuse to participate, and you don't have to coerce them, you don't have to manipulate them, you don't have to force them to participate. So you have to always remind them that they have a right to decline, they have the right to withdraw. And also consent, you must also treat consent as a continuous process. It's not just a one-time signature that you say, oh, okay, because you have signed a consent form, therefore you are going to participate. You have to check in during interviews and discussions to confirm if the participants are still comfortable. So that's the best way you can avoid a coercing or manipulating participants. Sometimes you can coerce them unknowingly, unintentionally. It's not something that I don't think is something that researchers do intentionally. Sometimes they coerce participants unintentionally because of the existing power dynamics at play. So you also have to be aware of the power dynamics especially between the gatekeeper and the participants that they are referring you to, and you have to be able to handle such issues. And then we have coercion and manipulation on the part of the researcher. So you always have to establish clear boundaries with gatekeepers. Because sometimes gatekeepers may try to control what you ask, who you talk to, and how you frame your findings. So to avoid this, you have to clarify your role and maintain professional independence. And sometimes when you feel that they are pressuring you, it's also good for you to politely push back. It's not a bad thing, but of course you have to do it politely. You don't have to sort of fight with them. And also ensure that you have multiple access points. So it doesn't help to just have one gatekeeper. So don't rely too heavily on a single gatekeeper or group, because this reduces this now. Then if you have multiple gatekeepers, it reduces the risk of one person or faction holding undue power over your access to participants or over your findings. So don't just have one gatekeeper, or if you want to avoid the possibility of you being manipulated or the possibility of you being coerced. And also you also have to be aware of your right to withdraw from the study setting itself. Just as participants can walk away, researchers should also give themselves permission to step back from interaction settings or relationships that compromise their safety or their ethics. So you have to be aware of these issues on both sides. So yeah, I think that's my response. I don't know if you are answered.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Pax, for that response, and thank you very much, colleagues, for sharing your insights on the complexities of doing qualitative research, and also to some extent the ways in which we can rethink the way we do research when we are on the field. And I think what you really foregrounded was the idea of flexibility, and also embracing incompleteness as a normal way of being, but also as a normal way of doing research. And I think that is also part of the decolonial approach of doing research, where researchers are not only extractive, who go into the field to collect data and then leave, but they engage and also sometimes even take the back seat, of course, closely when maybe a bouncer, a cleaner, or even a research assistant, takes over the process, which makes the research process very iterative, but also most importantly, a process that is based on the co-production of knowledge, and how I think this study and presentations help us to sort of rethink and question, the perceived linearity of the research process. That research is not always straightforward, and fieldwork is not always straightforward, but we sometimes move back and forth, as a way of trying to get access to participants and get access to the data. And I think what is really insightful in the work that has been shared is how, as researchers, sometimes we need to turn our challenges into, productive ways of thinking and rethinking, the research process. There's no data that is redundant. I know some people would feel like, oh, this data is not really addressing my objectives, or these participants that I'm being led to are not responding to, or they're not a part of what you want to look at. But you might be surprised that sometimes the most insightful data does not really come from the people that you perceive as the real participants. And I think that's part of the research process, and how sometimes we as researchers are forced, to discipline the data so that it fits maybe our theory, it fits our methodology, but sometimes we need to allow all these processes to unfold in a more unpredictable way, that sometimes we end up with grounded theories rather than having to discipline the data to fit our theory, our perceptions, our preconceived notions, but also even our methods. So thank you very much, colleagues, Pax and Tamuka, for this really insightful talk. And in the future, we'll definitely call you back again. I'm sure we have really benefited a lot from your work. And thank you very much, everyone who has attended today's session. We run these sessions every week, and we would really welcome you even next week, and other sessions that you might find interesting for you. So enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you very much for attending. We really appreciate that. We appreciate your attendance. We appreciate sharing your insights with us. And like I said, we will definitely call you back again to share your insights with us. And all those people that have joined us today, we really appreciate you taking time to listen to our presenters today. And hopefully that you have learned one or two things that might be helpful for the work that you are doing. And we run these seminars on a weekly basis, and you are free to join the mailing list and also to attend. And if you are interested in joining the mailing list, you can share your email in the chat, and we'll invite you for the sessions that we run every week. So let me take this opportunity to thank our presenters again, Tamuka and Pax. We really appreciate your generosity and your intellectual insights.
Thank you very much, Prof, for having us, and it was quite an honor to be able to share, our insights, with the colleagues. And also, I think we also, welcome to collaborations. I think those who want to collaborate, I think it's very important that they reach out to you, Prof, and get our contacts.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tamuka, for that. It's quite important for us to collaborate even across disciplines. Just like this paper, you could see people from public health, from psychology, sociology, anthropology, and that also increases the impact of the research, which is very important. So thank you very much, colleagues, and enjoy the rest of your day. Those that would want to get on our mailing list, you can share your email, and we'll gladly invite you for our weekly seminar series. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prof.
Thank you so much, Prof. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
I think there were a lot of questions, and
yeah
and people, I think, would too. That's why I said no. They can reach out later if they still want to engage. I think I think the paper on its own, I feel like there's a lot that we omitted that could have been discussed. That is not within the paper, but that we found, in our different fieldwork experiences that we had.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you can only fit so much in a research paper, but this is something that is extremely important. These are the things that you don't get taught in a classroom, but you get to learn from the people that are doing the work on the ground. That you need to anticipate the unexpected, and you also need to be flexible and be nimble-footed whenever you are doing research. And I think and this is quite important, not only for novice researchers, but even for established researchers as well, because I mean, that's the nature and the unpredictability of the field.
Yeah, because I was like, okay, I have Professor Francis Nyamjo as my supervisor, my primary supervisor, then Professor Fiona Ross as my secondary supervisor.
Yeah.
What can I meet in the research that they haven't? I thought they had covered everything. But my very first encounter, I think I'm encountering something different. I was like, but did they teach me everything? But when you reflect as you go, you begin to understand they can only give you the basics.
Yeah.
But the nuances and the intricacies of fieldwork, you have to learn them on your own.
Yeah.
Hence, you need to be nimble-footed enough to embrace your incompleteness. As a researcher, you're incomplete. So how do you now mitigate your incompleteness? You need to begin now to be convivial in your interactions. You need to be nimble-footed in your interactions. So this is what was happening in the field.
Yeah. I mean, like what you highlighted, these are quite established researchers that were supervising your work. But I'm sure when you were sharing your fieldwork experiences, sometimes they would also be surprised themselves to say, oh, is this what's really happening or what you are encountering? That shows the complexities of fieldwork and the research process. So, I mean, this paper was really
when I was telling them, so we would go to progress reporting and we are sitting down, talking to my supervisors, telling them these small issues that would I was just taking them for granted. My first time I was like, no, these things, they are just small petty issues. They happen. They are trivial issues that happen in the field. Maybe I was glossing over these issues, not knowing these are the very important issues that inform, new methods of doing research, new methods of being anthropological. My supervisors were saying, no, your methodology should be focused on these issues only. Forget about what you were saying in the interviews, like I did interviews. Those should be secondary issues. Focus on these stories that you're telling us. They can give you a new idea, a new methodological approach to migration research and scholarship. So they were very surprised to see and and to hear all these new issues that were emerging from my fieldwork.
Yeah. And I think supervisors also appreciate that when they find things and findings that are surprising, that shows the novelty of the work that you are doing, which I think is an advantage to go into the field, and then you get all these surprises and all these challenges, but then those challenges force you to think about the work that you are doing and how you can do it better.
Yeah, not only my supervisors, even the examiners, I think, most of them, instead of focusing on where I went wrong, they were focusing on why can't you change this into a book, write a book about this, like transform your thesis into a book, which I eventually did. But they were saying, no, these are issues that are very new to. So I eventually got a copy.
Wow, well, congratulations on that.
I eventually got a copy of my book. So they were saying, no, these are new issues that in our time of teaching and examining, we've been reading, issues that have been recycled, but this one is different. Why can't you write a book about it and share with the wider audience? And then eventually I managed to do that, and it was published early this year.
Yeah, well done, and congratulations for that milestone. It's not easy to have a book, and you've done that. That's quite a huge milestone.
Thank you, Prof.
Yeah. All right, and I'm definitely certain that we are going to call you again in the future. We benefit a lot from your work and colleagues as well, and that really helps our students, our colleagues, and we really appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Prof. I appreciate you. Looking forward to the next Tuesday seminar.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you, and thank you very much, everyone who has attended today. And for those that have not maybe shared their contacts yet, feel free if you want to join our mailing list. We do these seminars on a weekly basis, and you are very much welcome to attend. So thank you very much, and do enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.